Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Policy Session on this February 21st, 2024. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Commissioner West is out of the office on military leave. The other commissioners are present. Your first policy session today is annual work program for the Clackamas County Vector Control District. We have Joshua Jacobson, the Executive Director of the district, as well as several board members. Joshua, if you and whoever else would like to come forward, please, for the update to the board. And there is an action item for you today, Commissioners, to approve this work plan as required by state statute. Welcome, Joshua.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself, and if you would like to introduce the folks in the room, it'd be nice.
Sure. My name is Joshua Jacobson. I'm the Executive Director of Clackamas County Vector Control District. And with me today, I have several of my board members, one being Dan Green, who's our secretary. We have Amber Wimsat, who's our chairman, and Lowell Hanna, he is our treasurer.
Welcome. Thank you for coming today. Go ahead, Joshua.
Yeah. So we're here today to discuss with you our annual work plan and our annual report. And I have a brief presentation just kind of covering some of the highlights of last year, some of the kind of current issues that we're tracking and following as we should be. And I'll go ahead and get started. I guess I should say we have two other board members who aren't with us today, Logan Pedersen and Dakota Hufford, our vice chairman. So
Thank you.
So as you'll see, our vision statement is to progress towards a future free of vector-borne disease using all the scientific and educational tools available. Further, our mission statement is to control public health vectors within Clackamas County using an environmentally friendly approach that aims to limit the number of mosquitoes and flies, reducing annoyance and vector-borne disease. Our core values: service, professionalism, integrity, respect, and individual accountability and trust. I'll say we operate on independent funding that we are able to generate through Oregon Revised Statute 452, gives us the authority to have both our permanent tax levy and our local option levy that is going to be up for renewal on the ballot this November. So that will hopefully give us stable funding for another 5 years. Some of our highlights from our 2023 season, our actual budget expenditures for the year were $1,197,110. We currently have 4 full-time positions, and we hire up to 10 seasonal employees each year to help us conduct our field work each year so that we can properly service all of Clackamas County. We have 13 vehicles currently. 2 of those are equipped for spraying for adult mosquitoes if necessary. We fielded 545 citizen requests for assistance this year. We conducted 2,289 mosquito treatments. That's both for larval mosquitoes and adult mosquitoes. We collected 19,491 larval mosquito samples. So those are samples that our technicians pull out of ponds, ditches, stagnant water sources all throughout the county. They bring them in. We identify those so we can build an idea of what mosquito types we have in what areas of the county and what we need to be looking for. Then our laboratory, our assistant biologist, trapped 3,847 mosquitoes. These were all brought back to our lab, identified, and then species that are vectors of disease are sent off to the Oregon State Laboratory for testing for West Nile virus and various diseases. And then finally, we distributed 294 gambusia fish, which are our mosquito-eating fish and tend to be a very popular request among the citizens for everything from horse troughs to ponds. So I wanted to talk a little bit about West Nile virus in 2023 in Oregon. As you can see, we didn't have any West Nile virus in Clackamas County. However, we did have it around the state. And so for those that don't know, West Nile virus is a virus that is transmitted by mosquitoes to humans, but it's a cycle between birds and mosquitoes. So the birds are what transports anyway the virus into our area each year. Then those infected birds are bitten by mosquitoes, and then those mosquitoes pass on the virus to whatever it may be, humans, horses, or other birds. So this is something we constantly monitor every year. We're very concerned with West Nile virus, and anyway, just constantly on our radars.
Josh, have those increased, those counties that have West Nile virus, is that on the increase or the decrease over the last several years?
It tends to be cyclical, so it tends to run in cycles of every few years we tend to have a spike. So this last year I would say is fairly mild actually for West Nile virus here in Oregon, but I'd say we're coming due for a peak cycle. So it's been a number of years since we've had heavy West Nile virus in the state. So
Thank you. Please continue.
Another concern all throughout the mosquito industry, but specifically to us here in Oregon, we are constantly watching for invasive species. These two mosquitoes here on the invasive species slides, Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus, historically were not in the United States, and then probably maybe 5 years ago they started migrating and had made their way into the southern United States. These mosquitoes have continued to expand their range and are now, I think, as far north as Shasta County in California have been detected. So we're concerned with these mosquitoes because they're not just competent vectors of West Nile virus, but other mosquito-borne diseases as well. And they tend to be aggressive mosquitoes. So these are the ones that chase you down, they won't leave you alone. They even bite during the daytime, which isn't typical of the mosquitoes we historically have here in Oregon. So this is something we're watching for. It's likely just a matter of time before they're brought in on a transport truck or something like that. So we have special traps out that we are monitoring for these specific species of mosquitoes to make their way here so that we can be as prepared as possible for when we do have them establish their populations here. Next slide, please. There we go. As you can see, this is a map of California and kind of the spread we've seen up the valley in California as far north as Shasta County with these two invasive mosquitoes. So it's something we're continually watching. They now have permanent populations of Aedes aegypti and albopictus in Southern California. And so it seems to be of growing concern, just something we're watching and monitoring for the county here. Next, I just wanted to cover some topics for anybody that might be listening in or those that we can pass on the word to, others that we know, about how to help us better do our job. So we go all around the county treating all the stagnant water sources that we know of, monitoring them for mosquitoes, but really the best thing we can do is educate the public to have them help us better do our job, or at least make us aware of situations. If they know of stagnant water in their backyard or somewhere near their home, they can alert us to those concerns, or it's something they can take care of themselves, such as dumping out a bucket or cleaning their gutters that might be holding water, old tires around the house that might hold water, anything that holds any significant amount of water has the potential to breed mosquitoes. So it's a large part of our program is public outreach, is one, making the citizens of the county aware that we are here and we provide this service and it's available to them. And then also, how they can help themselves and the community by taking part in preventing mosquitoes or performing some control measures, which would be, something as simple as dumping out water. So. And then just some things of what we're looking forward to this year would be our facility remodel over at 320 Warner Milne. We're currently have architectural and engineering going on remodeling that facility. So this is a kind of a rendering of what we hope it'll look like when we're done. And other than that, we hope to continue to expand our public outreach. We've had a lot of success with the public outreach firm we're working with. We do library and school programs all throughout the county, which have been very successful. We're having a lot more requests for those. And then also this year, we've had an educational app game, and we hope to expand that and renew that this year and reach even more people. So that's all I have for you today. So if you have questions, I'd be happy to.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
You said you're going to renew your levy, and how many years has that been?
I think the first levy was passed in 2004, and so.
Is it a 5-year or a 10-year?
It's 5-year.
Okay.
So
And what is the rate?
it's 2.5 cents per $1,000 of assessed home value.
2.5 cents?
Yeah.
Okay. Gary, does it have to be approved by the board?
Yes, by state statute, you must approve this work plan.
Okay. I would like to have a full budget document when you come back for that. I see you have $1 million of income that you take in. I'd like to, you know what I'm talking about, Jeff. Yeah, a real budget document. And how are you paying for the remodel of this building?
Each year that we've had the levy, a portion of that levy was set aside to fund a potential facility purchase or remodel or whatever we needed to do. We knew our time down on Abernathy was limited, and so ever since this levy has been in place, we have been essentially saving for this event. So,
Why isn't a government budget document not presented in your annual work plan?
there is a budget outline in there. It's not our full budget document, but if that's something you.
I'm just asking because yeah, Gary.
I apologize, I misunderstood. I answered the question incorrectly. So the Board of Commissioners does not approve their budget. You approve their work plan, which is how they're going to do their activities, but not their budget. They approve
So
that
they
separately.
just put it on the ballot themselves?
I'm sorry, no, for the ballot question, Jeff, can you come forward? The Board of Commissioners would put that on the ballot, and is this year, right, 2024,
Correct.
for your renewal? So Jeff Munz, our Assistant County Counsel, is going to help us walk through that process. Sorry, Jeff.
Oh, I know, that's not my issue.
Yes, ORS 452 just requires you to approve their work plan. They have a separate budget process. The ballot measure would be referred by them separately to come forward, and that goes to the clerk's office, of course.
Okay, so we take no action on the referral to voters?
Correct.
Okay,
Just their
good.
work plan.
Totally fine. Totally fine. Yes, I'm sure you're doing good work on that, and thank you. So for the new building that you're moving into, you do not have to borrow money or make payments?
Correct.
Wow, very good. That's excellent budget management. Thank you. We have a couple commissioners in the queue. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, I was going to say on that discussion, it is a district, so they're an independent jurisdiction, I guess. So the requirement for this report that we approve is just embedded in the statute or is embedded in the master order? In statute? It is. Okay, all right. Yeah, I appreciate you all bringing this to us, and good to see you all, Lowell. And I haven't met you yet. and Dan, yeah, our past forester, yeah.
Yes.
I have a question about the building. Was this is the old city hall, right? And is that the building that had the mural in the city chambers? Do you any recall that? It's not related to your presentation, sorry, but I was just curious because I remember going to the meetings and had that wonderful mural behind the dais on the Oregon City Council, and it was in that building. I didn't know if they took that with them or how they captured that, but nonetheless, you don't know the answer, but I'll look into it on the Oregon City side. I was just curious.
I know it's not in the building now.
Okay.
so.
Okay. Thank you. Congratulations on the building, by the way.
Thank you.
That was glad you guys found a home, so that was really important. So.
Yes, Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, good morning, Joshua. Good morning, Vector Control Board of Trustees. Joshua, do you ever work with the state biologists? Do they do tests on migrating birds that come through our county to test them for West Nile virus or other diseases?
I don't know. We haven't worked specifically with the state biologist on that issue. I don't know if they conduct tests on living birds.
Okay.
Throughout the Oregon Mosquito and Vector Control Association of Oregon has a permit each year that we apply for, and we can test dead birds, essentially. And
see.
so that gives us the ability to, if citizens or we find a dead bird during kind of the peak time of the year when the disease may be present in the birds.
Okay.
That's
And-
the testing we would do.
I see. And on your slide that shows the West Nile virus activity in Oregon, that information comes from the Oregon Vector Control Association. Is that what you just referenced?
That map was from the Oregon Health Authority.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so we work with Emilio DeBess, and he puts together that map. So he's associated with our association, and we file a report with him every year to
Okay.
provide that information, and he actually approves our
Okay.
work plan as well.
And although your focus is on mosquitoes and flies, which are disease-carrying insects, do you track on other invasive species insects? What comes to mind is the Asian stink bug, which a lot of people complain about. And the other thing
Yes.
too, Joshua, now I don't know if it's countywide, but in the east side of the county, in the lower forest lands that have a lot of broadleaf maples, we have it must be in the millions and millions of box elder bugs. And do they, to your knowledge, carry any kind of harmful disease or that people should be concerned about? Because what happens is in the wintertime, they get in your house, and nobody knows how they do it. But in the spring and in the fall, they're moving around. Is that a concern for us in the county?
Not for humans.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're not a vector of anything to
just
humans.
annoying. There's just tons of them.
But
Okay. One last question. Is there any statewide program for spraying such insects? Or is that a responsibility of the farm owner or the homeowner?
There's nothing in the state,
Okay.
no public entity does anything like that for
I
the
see.
stink bugs.
Oh,
But,
okay.
yeah, it'd be on the property owner.
Yeah, okay, good. I'll do what I can, Joshua, to help spread the word about your website, and so people can be informed on how to do what they can to reduce the propagation of mosquitoes
Great.
and
Thank you.
flies. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas, Commissioner Schrader.
Well, thank you for being here, Josh. And Dan Green is not just our past forester, he's also the godfather of my youngest child, so RJ.
Salute.
Yay. He's been a great dad. Every Christmas, you would bring presents that would be very noisy, Dan, but they loved it. But I did want to talk about the entomology piece of this a little bit. I really appreciate the fact that you're doing an education program in schools. I think that's essential, and I think that people sometimes aren't aware of how serious these diseases can be and how they are transmitted by insect vectors. And we're not seeing anything like Zika here. That's really closer down south, isn't it? Or-
Yeah, there wasn't a large outbreak of Zika. I think it was in 2017, I want to say. And it was pretty widespread for a few years, and then it seemed to run its course. And I think even worldwide, Zika cases are fairly uncommon, even
Okay.
just this far removed from that peak outbreak. So
Seems to be cyclical. Do they know why at this point? No?
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, there are dozens of diseases that mosquitoes are capable of transmitting that we are concerned with, but we have to kind of localize it to the mosquitoes we have here in this area and the presence of the disease itself. So there's a few we're concerned with, but as far as the United States and with these invasive species moving in, it's something we're closely watching. So.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I just really appreciate the work you all do, and I've learned a lot over the years here, and I always amazed how many places puddles of water get built up on, a piece of plastic, a lid off of a garbage can upside down. I mean, so I'm always dumping that water out so we don't, help spread in any way, West Nile or any other vector. I'm willing to ready to make a motion, but I just want to thank the volunteers that and the people that are on the committee and your work as well, Josh. So it's always appreciated. Don't get a lot of glamour. Maybe that's a good thing about this, but I trust more of a good thing than not. But your work's appreciated.
Thank you.
So, Chair, I move that we approve option 1, approve the Vector Control District Annual Work Plan as presented.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Savas has moved that we approve the Clackamas County Vector Control Work Plan as presented, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? I would like to say, before we take a vote on this, thank you for coming forward. Thank you for doing all the good work. You do such a good work on the other. Just take care of the stink bugs. I say that every year. Yeah, it's really something. And the box elders. You and I, so we live in rural county, and it is tremendous, just tremendous, the infestation on some weeks that this happens. I wish I knew what to do about it. I've been told to put dish soap with water in a squirt bottle, and it suffocates the box elders. But then you have dish soap plastered all over everything, and then you have to go and hose it off. So I don't know what the cure is. I've also heard this is another home remedy, that if you have horses, and of course you have to have a horse trough, to put a cup of vinegar in your horse trough, and then that'll keep the mosquitoes out of the horse trough too. I don't know, is that true?
I can't speak to its effectiveness.
What?
I can't speak to its effectiveness. I haven't tried that method, but if you have a horse trough, give us a call. We could bring
That's
you.
what we used to do, because we didn't want, the horses to be bit and so forth by it. So, I don't know. That's just a,
You could
just
try
a
some
home remedy.
mosquito fish in there. We
right.
place those in there, and they do well. A lot of people do that.
Yeah, okay. See no further comments. Tony, would you please take the poll?
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Josh Jacobson, for coming forward. I look forward to your new building, and maybe we can be there for the opening of that.
That'd be great.
Thank you all for coming today. We appreciate your service.
Thank you so much.
Gary?
Thank you. Next policy session is Measure 110, Advisory Ballot Question. The County Council team will present, and they are Sean Lilligren and Jeffrey Munns, Assistant County Councils, and County Council Stephen Madcore is in the audience, just in case. Go ahead, please.
All right, well, morning, Commissioners and Chair. We are returning to talk about the Measure 110 advisory questions. I can wait a second.
Yeah, just a minute, Jeff.
Sure.
Thanks, guys. See you soon, Dan.
Yeah, Jeff, would you start over, please?
You bet. Yes, just good morning. Returning to talk about the Measure 110 advisory question that you approved about 2 weeks ago, February 7th. We are here with the question that you revised at that time, as well as the Form 805 and 801, and the explanatory statement to support that question. This question that you approved 2 weeks ago was, should legislators representing Clackamas County pass legislation repealing Measure 110 that decriminalized illegal drugs, including for juveniles? And of course, we attached the forms that would go with that. I did ask options to the clerk's office if you were inclined to change the date. The cost to put this on the November ballot is an option. Would be one question for $50,000 to $60,000. Two questions would be $80,000 to $90,000. The current estimate we have from the clerk's office is two questions from $60,000 to $70,000. I don't have an update as to what it would be for just one question for this May ballot, but it would be less than the $60,000. So that's the estimate for the cost of the election. Other options we put in the policy worksheet here were, given that the legislature is currently looking at a number of bills to revise, to change the Measure 110 changes to the law, would be, I added a question here for, should state legislators representing Clackamas County introduce legislation to classify possession of hard drugs as a Class A misdemeanor crime? And then, should completion of a drug rehabilitation program be a requirement of a criminal conviction for drug possession? Those are all the kind of the topics, of course, the legislature is working on right now. The latest update that I see is that the House Bill 4002 is something that both parties are working on as far as amending to talk about potentially a new misdemeanor as a way to punish this, as well as changes to the way the drug treatment and so on, rehabilitation programs are implemented for requirements to take advantage of that new law. So still a moving target, which is why it's part of the conversation, because this has to be to the clerk's office by March 1st. Then the last day to withdraw any questions for the May ballot is March 21st. And so, of course, the legislature won't be done until after March 1st, but will be done most likely before March 21st. So we have a window there of about 3 weeks in which we can come back to you and discuss pulling a question. But at this point, we need to finalize any questions that would need to be sent to the clerk's office.
I've been in some discussions with the folks in the legislature. First of all, I talked with Emily this morning, and Trent Wilson, our lobbyist, has seen no legislation adjusting this, and we don't see a bill. I had heard from our district attorney last week, called and presented me with some information. Would this be acceptable? I says, I need to see something in writing. He says we should have something in writing by Wednesday. He says, I cannot speak on behalf of the board, but it's in the right direction. Just letting you folks know, if it happened. We don't know what's going on. I talked with Representative Jules Walters yesterday, and she seems to think that they're moving in the right direction. But in light of nothing in writing and no legislation or a hearing, they've had hearings, okay, but for a bill to come back in an actual work session to be voted on, I'm hesitant on removing this until, like you say, we have until March 21st to do it.
Correct.
I would just like to keep the pressure up on the legislature to go ahead and do this. I did say if the legislature was, I said this to our DA, if the legislature was able to pass something that's acceptable to this board that we could work with, we could withdraw this question. But in light of that, why would we want to ease up right now for that? And I do like the question that was posed last time on page 5, should legislators repeal Measure 110? That's very straightforward. That is the caption, the ballot title, and then the question that's behind it is a little bit more detailed. Commissioners, that's what my thinking is. Go ahead with this until at which time the legislators can pass something and the governor signs it. It also needs to have an emergency clause on it because we can't wait for a year for it to take effect. What was the other thing it needed? Yeah, so it needs some gas behind it, let's put it that way. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, well, if, Chair, I think I interpreted that to say that you're supporting option one then, I guess. Is that right? Deferring
Let's
until.
go back,
I mean, not that I'm ready to make a motion. I want to make a statement and then maybe
Oh.
talk about the ballot language a little bit here as well.
no, I would go ahead and refer this. I'm not deferring a decision on this particular, I think we should go ahead with it, is what I was saying. Approve the election forms, I think option 2.
You're thinking option two. Okay. So anyhow.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so anyhow, thanks for clarifying. I was just trying to understand.
Sure.
As I mentioned before, this is a cost, and if it was actually effective in overturning or altering or changing any legislation, then I'd be inclined to support it if we actually had that power, and this ballot measure does not provide that power or authority to do that. I am all for repealing this based on what I've seen, but I would certainly love to see the dollars originally intended to go towards treatment, the marijuana tax dollars and others, be committed. That's one positive element of Measure 110, is it legislatively said, you shall do this with these dollars. That part, I think, is important to get people the treatment they need and not have to put them in jail or prison or whatever their offense is. That said, again, I support repealing, but I'm looking, the caption, okay, I don't have any quarrel with the caption language, but the question language, I just want to make this, I just think maybe a word change is really required there because it's a little bit misleading.
Can you tell me what page you're reading from?
Either page, if you want to look at either of the two, the language, the concern I have is the same, and that is whether it's page 5 or it's page 3.
Okay.
Under the question, it says, should legislators representing Clackamas County introduce/pass legislation? Well, Clackamas County legislators can't pass it. They can introduce it and they can support it, but they can't pass it. So I think that technically, I have a problem with that word pass. They have no power to do that. They have power to introduce, power to support, but not power to pass.
Is that true?
Not alone, of course. I think the way the question is worded, that would be an ambiguity. Could Clackamas County legislators in the Oregon legislature alone pass legislation? And
Or
of
should
course
we
they can't.
take out Clackamas County legislators and say should legislators?
You could simplify it further, like should the Oregon legislature pass legislation repealing Measure 110? If you want something very simple.
I misunderstood what you were saying. I was getting hung up on the constitutional version versus the statutory version. I understand what you're saying now. Maybe we should take out Clackamas County legislators.
Well, you could either that or just say support, but there again, we're going to the Clackamas County voters. The people that represent them are the Clackamas County legislators. The message may not go out to all the state legislators, so, I think that's a interesting change to just take out Clackamas County, put all legislators, but just throwing that out there. I just want to make sure that technicality or that representation is erased. Certainly is correct. You could keep the word pass and put state legislators or just take out Clackamas County. It would be true. I want to make sure it's true and logical.
Okay.
That does remove one ambiguity. It's just which direction you want to go. If you want the measure this question to look more towards Clackamas County, or if you want it to be more of a question as to what the legislature should do as a whole. You can suggest wording either way.
Commissioner Scholl? I'll come back, Commissioner Salas.
Well, I'm saddened to hear that there's no pending bill in this short session that would repeal Measure 110 completely. I'm committed to the idea that Measure 110 needs to be repealed to put the teeth back into law enforcement, to remove drugs from our streets, to remove the problem of public intoxication by these killer drugs and to help clean up our city, our county, and our state. So on the question wording, like you mentioned with Commissioner Savas, should the Oregon State Legislature introduce / pass, I think that change should be made. And I support going forward with this SEL 805 as soon as possible. And since, well, if there was a chance that this short session would take action to repeal Measure 110, it doesn't look like that's going to be happening, but should it happen, we can always pull this prior to 21 March. I don't know what the date is that you need to push out the $60,000 or $70,000 to the clerk's office. That would
The
be-
cost for one question is going to be less than the $16,000
okay,
they quoted
yeah.
us, but
All right,
I'm not sure
okay.
exactly when that's due, but we'd be able to pull it and then not pay it.
Yes, okay. So I support your SEL 805 with a modification of the wording on the question to should the Oregon State Legislature introduce / pass. Thank you.
So, Chair, maybe we should take these one at a time. At least we can get.
That's fine. That's
yeah,
fine,
yeah.
Commissioner Savas. Go ahead. Do you want to make a motion?
So I move to change the language under the question from the word pass to support.
Okay. Do you want to take out, should legislators representing Clackamas County, or should we just say the Oregon legislature?
I'm actually inclined to keep the word Clackamas County there.
Okay.
And just change the word to support.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Instead of saying introduce and pass.
Yeah.
So Commissioner Savas has moved that the question, should legislators representing Clackamas County support legislation repealing Measure 110 that decriminalized illegal drugs, including for juveniles?
Well,
Is it-
actually, Chair, just quick correction. I just wanted to change the word pass to support, so we keep the word introduce and the slash.
Oh, okay, so we keep introduce / pass legislation.
Support.
Excuse me, introduce and support legislation. I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed
Yeah,
up.
that's all right.
Okay, introduce, support legislation. Is that clear? Do I hear a second?
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, Commissioner Savas has moved, we change the language in the ballot question to introduce, support, and Commissioner Scholl has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0.
Now, I'll take a risk here. I'm not sure we're going to land in the same place, but it will reveal where we're at. I move that, I'll actually pause here. I'm going to digress. I'm going to ask a question. Does option one, defer decision on whether to refer an advisory question until after the current legislature, that means what it says, right? So we're not saying if we pass number one, we're going to wait until sine die of this short session and then make the call whether or not, see if we see any legislation, whether or not we move forward with this. That's the intent of option one, correct?
That's the intent of why we worded it that way in the worksheet, but that would be after, if you defer until after the short session, you're going to miss the window to refer a question until, for this ballot, because it has to be by March 1st, and the legislature won't be done in time. And so I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Now, that's where you could still pull
And when is
it.
sine die?
I believe it's a few days after that, early March.
March,
March 4th?
March 10th, Chair.
Okay.
What?
March 10th.
Okay, so we will miss the window if we don't do something.
Yeah, we got to do it.
So option three
I got a motion.
would be, gives us the opportunity to withdraw if some legislation comes across that is,
Yes. That is palatable to us.
Okay.
It may not have everything we want, but we could agree. I think Commissioner Shaw wanted to make a motion.
okay?
I move to approve the election form 805 and 801 as attached with the modifications of verbiage as stated previously in this meeting,
Do I hear a
and
second?
authorize Chair Smith to sign these forms on behalf of the board.
I'll second that for sake of discussion. So where you're talking about option 2 and 3?
I'm talking about option
think you
2
read
with
it.
a modification to articulate the verbiage change we discussed just a minute ago on the question.
Okay. Thank you. So I am wondering whether or not, hang on a second here, as I'm reading this. I want to keep the option open, and I'm afraid that the motion as worded does not give us the opportunity to come back for reconsideration if there is legislation that passes. It's not
What was
clear to
that?
me.
Mark, go ahead.
Okay, let me clarify. This motion would authorize legal staff to proceed with the Forms 805 and 801. But we've already discussed, once they're submitted to the clerk's office, depending on the outcome of the short session, we can, if we so decide, retract the 805 and 801.
That's my understanding.
Yeah,
If I might suggest that depending on what you do with this motion, but that you further instruct our office to come back to you if there is any bill passed that repeals or changes anything about Measure 110 and schedule a policy session after the legislature is done to ponder that question, to withdraw. the measure.
Question, could that be done
in the motion?
after the motion is approved or disapproved? Okay.
You give us that direction,
Okay,
yes, we'll
good.
schedule
Yeah,
a time.
certainly we can do that.
Okay.
I'm going to make a friendly amendment, so we can do it in one fell swoop. The friendly amendment is to Commissioner Scholl's motion, is that it comes back to the board prior to submittal. Well, not take that back, prior to the deadline to withdraw.
Prior to the
for
May 20,
reconsideration.
the March 21st deadline.
Yeah.
Say that, prior to the March 21st
Yeah,
deadline.
so I amend the motion to include language that it comes back to the board prior to the March 21st, 2024 deadline.
I can accept that.
Okay, there's been a motion made, and there's been a friendly amendment. Is it understood, or do I need to repeat it? I do not need to repeat it. Thank you, Commissioners, for your work on this.
Okay.
Any further discussion on this? Okay. I just want to say, when the legislature makes a decision on 110, and they will make a decision, and I'm extremely optimistic, it's something that we can work with. We will schedule a policy session as fast as we can do it within notice, okay? So we're going to have to move like that, okay? No further discussion. Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Zavas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much, Jeff.
You're welcome, yes, I was just going to say that when we come back, it won't be a matter where we can change the question, just being withdrawing it, just so that we're on the
Yes.
same page. Great. So we'll get that scheduled now as a placeholder, and then we will see you in a
That's fine.
Few weeks.
We'll get it scheduled. Thanks a lot
Thank
for
you.
coming forward. Gary, is there anything else?
That is the last session for today, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. See no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.